Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Ask the Expert. You know, so often when we talk to parents, they ask us, how can I teach finances to my children? How can they grow up learning how to manage their money better, how to budget it, how to invest it so that when they become adults, they're set? Well, today I am really excited. My co-host and I, Dr. DeForest B. Soares Jr., we are today with Caden Harris. He is the CEO of Caden Teaches, as well as his father, Dr. Sean Harris. He is the president of Caden Teaches and a wealth expert. So welcome, Caden and Dr. Harris.
Thank you for having us.
We are so excited to have you with us today. I know Dr. Soares, who's the CEO of the D-Free Financial Freedom Movement, he's just so, Caden, we're all so impressed. We are so impressed, and I'm so excited to talk to you. So what inspired you to really get into personal finance and financial literacy?
Well, I would just go to business meetings with my dad, and I will always see that people were talking about financial literacy. But at that point, I didn't understand what financial literacy was. So I took it upon myself to learn about financial literacy and teach it to kids in a way that they could understand, because I often find that most kids graduate high school without even knowing the basics about financial literacy. And I know doing that can really help.
Well, let me tell you something. First of all, not only do most kids graduate high school without learning about finance, I've got 3 earned degrees and didn't learn about finance until I was broke. So it's not just kids, but the sooner you learn it, then the better off you are. But let's go step back, because you mentioned, Cadence, going to meetings with your dad. Dr. Harris, first of all, let me congratulate and commend you for being one of the minorities of Black men who are actively raising and involved in their kids' lives. Let me thank you for that. That's number one. But tell us about you, because he was hanging out with a father who was engaged in financial education, activities, enterprise himself. So tell us a little bit about yourself so that we'll know how the apple fell from the tree.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you for having me on, Dr. Soares. Well, basically, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My family actually owned the first 2 African-American owned hotels here in Atlanta in the pre-civil rights era, known to many as the Chitlin Circuit. So that's where a lot of the entertainers would come. Sam Cooke, Aretha Franklin, all these great entertainers would stay in our family's hotels. Both my parents owned companies growing up, so the apple didn't fall far from the tree in that regard. So same thing, my dad would take me to business meetings, different associations. I would hear my mom running the back office of the building, the business. So I started learning about business. I have an older sister, older brother, younger sister. My sister was like the lifetime education person. My brother's more the corporate person, and I was the black sheep that just ran off wild and became an entrepreneur. So I would do the same thing with Kaden and his sister. I would just take them to business meetings and they would get acclimated. And one day Kaden just came to me. He just started asking, Dad, what's the dividend? What's an asset? What does rate of return mean? So I started explaining it to him. And then one day he just said, hey, listen, I want to be able to teach this to kids and my peer group in a fun and interactive way that they can understand it. So he took it upon himself to start his company, Caden Teaches.
That's just amazing. I mean, listen, if anyone watching this is a parent, a grandparent, or just an adult, it's incumbent upon us to allow young people to spend time with us. Spend time with us. I know today so many children are being raised by iPads. It's important to have children turn off those devices, spend time with us, and then to do as Dr. Sean has done, explain us to our children. You know, you can't imagine as a pastor how often I asked teenagers what their parents did for a living, and the teenagers didn't even know. They didn't know what their parents, they knew their parents left home in the morning and came home at night and didn't know what happened in between. So thank you again. Thank you for being that kind of parent, that kind of dad. And Kaden, thank you for paying attention. You could have gone with your dad and just gone to sleep or played with some little device. This is just marvelous. Listen, I want to get to Brittany asking you those critical questions. I'm just so inspired by the connection between father and son. This is so unique. It's exemplary of what I believe is going to save our community. And then, of course, your family tradition of entrepreneurship is really critical. Folks, more people in this country are employed by small businesses than by major corporations. And Black people are more likely to be employed by a Black company than anyone else. And so just listen in to the answers to these questions, because what Brittany's going to do is probe deeply into not just the style. I love the style, but Brittany's going to focus on the content. So Brittany, there are some things that we need to know about their content that will help us better promote them. So let's go with it.
Definitely. So Kaden, you have a financial literacy bus. So please describe to us, what can people do when they go onto your bus?
So when they first go on the bus, when they look to their left, there's a mock bank to where they're able to learn how to deposit and withdraw their money. I have my tablet stations where the kids where they're able to use their books, where they're able to choose things like choose a career between a business owner, a registered nurse, movie producer, pilot, biochem. It's just a ton of careers like that. And then they have to write a check to their parents of how much money they think they deserve. They also have their tablets as well, to where they'll do a stock quiz and where they'll do their grocery list. And I also have my mock stock exchange where they're able to learn how to invest in stocks, and my mock grocery store to where they're able to learn their needs versus their wants throughout my checkout area, where they're able to learn how to make transactions and so much more.
That is unbelievable. First of all, I'm half mad, Brittany, if you don't know, when we first started D3 back in 2005, 2006, after CNN did their special on us, I wanted to do a bus. I wanted to have a D3 bus with a D3 wrap and take it around the cities and have people come on the bus and learn things. And after all these years, neither my staff nor my supporters were willing to work on this bus. And then I look up and see this little Kaden that jumps out with this bus. So I'm kind of jealous, because it's a great idea. It's an absolutely great idea. And the next time I come to Atlanta, I've got to see this bus. But please send us some pictures of the bus so I can show all of my naysayers who said this did not make sense. I can show them how Caden's teaching understands better than they do.
And I thought you were going to say that what you loved about Caden's bus is Dr. Story's Caden he's always talking to us about your needs versus your wants. And I love that Caden is already teaching students their needs versus their wants. It's such a valuable lesson.
Absolutely.
I love that, Caden. So by the end of it, do students kind of get a chance to see how much they need in order to make a life or make a living?
Yes, and we also have a certain place in the books as well, to where they're able to put out all their needs and their wants. They have to circle all of their needs and put an X over all of their wants. And let me actually show you the book.
I was about to ask you, I want to see all the products, cards, everything.
Okay. These are actually all of my products here. They have my puzzle here where they're able to answer some cool budgeting puzzles throughout it. We have my financial flashcards, which just have they're pretty much flashcards with financial terms. My activity book here, to where they're able to do some fun financial activities inside. And my book titled Caden's Rich Kid Guide, to where they're able to learn where they're able to get tips to earn $10K under 10 years old.
Wow. I love that.
Box which bundles everything you just saw.
I love that.
Yeah, we're going to promote all of your products. We believe in partnerships, because as there's a proverb that says two are better than one. We're going to figure out a way to make sure everyone that we reach knows about your content and your products, and we're going to try to help you make it easy for them to get your products. When I asked you this question before, and I know it's in the middle of the daytime, I asked you, why aren't you in school? And I was looking for one kind of answer, and you gave me a very profound answer. Can you just tell our viewers and our listeners why you're not in school?
Well, I'm actually homeschooled, and I'm in a high school program so I can graduate at my own pace. And I'm also taking college courses as well in Luxembourg, actually.
That is amazing. So you are in school, even though you're not in a school building, but you're in school. And I wish more people understood that school is not a building. Education happens wherever you go. And homeschooling is an option that I think more of our families should consider. I'm rereading the book written by Carter G. Woodson, The Miseducation of the Negro. And if anyone has not read that book, you need to read it. If you read it before, you should read it again. And I think what Kaden is experiencing is exactly what Carter G. Woodson was passionate about, and that is making sure our people have the kind of education that we need to not only make a good living ourselves, but to contribute to the uplift of our people. Wow. So Dr. Harris, tell us a little more about you. What did you do before your son hired you to run his company?
Well, I have a background in law enforcement. I was in the United States Air Force. I have a background in aerospace propulsion, aeronautics, all that highfalutin aircraft stuff. Just like many people, we all get the same thing, go to school, get grades, go get a good job, and everything will be happily ever after. But I realized in this generation that things were shifting, and I had to make sure I pivoted with the shift. So my dad gave me those same three tenets that we usually get as young men and sometimes ladies. When you turn 18, you got to do something. You got to either go to college, you got to get a job, or you got to go to the military. So at that time, I didn't want to continue going to school at that time. I didn't want to go get a job. So of course, I took the third option, which was the United States Air Force, which I had a great time, but I always knew that I wanted to come back and be an entrepreneur. So when I first got out, I did law enforcement for a while, but I quickly realized that I was allergic to hot lead coming in my direction. So I didn't like getting shot at anymore. So I had to create an exit strategy. And that's when I started a couple of real estate companies while I was still working a 9-to-5, and then shifted and started growing other companies since then.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. So where are you going with this company? Where I know you travel, I know both of you speak, but where are you going? What can we expect to see from you? Certainly in Atlanta, but even outside of Atlanta.
Well, I would love to eventually even franchise my business and imagine if I could just have 50 buses, one in each state. That would be amazing, right? And even having a facility to where kids can be able to learn. And another thing I'd love to do is have a financial retreat where we would first do some fun activities to get to know each other, and then we get right into learning. I teach them different things like assets versus liabilities, their needs versus their wants, of course, how to budget, how to earn, save, and invest their money as well.
Yeah. Can I ask how old you are? Because you look like you're about 8, but you talk like you're 80.
Well, I'm actually 12.
12 years old. My Lord. Now I know how they felt when Jesus was teaching the teachers in the temple at 12 years old. I feel like you're teaching the teachers. Well, we do events from time to time. We've had some young people. We had a group of young people from Washington some years ago who flip houses, and they call themselves the Junior Flippers. And they were so inspiring. They were actually talking to children younger or older than they are. And so I'd like to really follow up and consider how we can create some events where you can talk to young people. Most of the people we talk to are old, but we need help. We as a community need help in reaching children to begin thinking the way you're thinking as early as possible. And so I'm really interested in knowing that you are willing to come out and do more with audiences, because I think we can team up on that. What do you think, Brittany?
I think that'd be amazing if Caden is interested, because Caden, you and your dad, you guys are so wonderful, and I'm looking forward to you franchising your business. It's going to be great.
What's your biggest challenge as you as father son team up? Speaking of father son, you know, there in my presentations, I talk about a furniture company that was owned by a father and a son, and they let you buy $3,000 worth of furniture, and you pay $22 a month, and it would take you 89 years to pay it off. You're a different kind of father and son. What are the challenges you have? I know you started this just about a year ago, right?
No, I actually started my business when I was 7 years old.
Oh, don't tell me anymore. 7 years old. I couldn't even spell business at 7 years old. Okay, so looking at the future, what are your challenges? What do you think are going to be the tough challenges you're going to have to overcome to be successful?
Well, I would say one of my biggest challenges that I have had is that I could hardly speak until I was 5 years old. So I would leave off the beginning and end off of words. And I had to go through years of speech therapy because I had a speech impediment. So after years of speech therapy, I was able to prevail and take grand stages, even going on stages like Disney and so many more.
Well, that's wonderful. So that's no longer a challenge. Obviously, you have no speech problem now. Great.
I think one of the other challenges also, Doctor, is being so young when he started. He was 7 years old with the flashcards that we were talking about. And I remember people would try to challenge him and like stump him.
Sure.
And many times people would say, well, what is a rate of return? Or what is a dividend? So like I said, he had these flashcards here. It has like the word with the definition and everything. And people would oftentimes try to challenge him. And it was like a disrespect of his scholar or his genius. So I continue just tell them, just continue persevering, because many times our self-images as adults can be a little tarnished or impacted or bruised when we find out, wow, this kid knows something that I don't know as an adult. So I think that was the biggest challenge that he overcame, and now he moves with grace when he's in rooms. You know, I take him to the corporate meetings, C-suite execs, and it's just amazing to see how he just takes the floor. I just kind of sit back, watch him out there networking with CEOs and doing his thing. It's really awesome.
Yeah, that's great. You know, Caden, I've discovered all of my life that challenges make you stronger. And the fact that you can expect challenges, it forces you to make sure you prepare right and you walk into the room correctly. You know, I'm a preacher. I had 30 years of pastoring at one church, and I have the same experience, even though it's not because I'm young, but it's because I'm a preacher. And often corporate types will say, well, why are we listening to a minister talk about money? And they challenge me the same way they challenge you. You'll never get past the challenges. And as long as you embrace the challenges as opportunities to excel and to win, then you'll be fine. You'll be fine. That's great. And hopefully we'll be able to help through our support reduce some of the challenges. Often challenges are mitigated by endorsements and affiliations with other people. And so we want to offer you whatever credibility we have, whatever access we have, whatever relationship we have. We want to make sure you take full advantage of us, because that's what we're about.
I would love that.
That's so beautiful. Well, Caden, what is your message for any young person who is watching this today?
Well, my message would probably be to make sure to look at people who are where you want to be and research the things that you want to do. And I would say those are the biggest tips that I would probably give.
Wow. Now, I read somewhere that you actually teach children how to increase their income. And I think one of the things I saw was how to double your allowance. Would you please help us understand that? Because I've got some young children in my life who think that I'm the solution to doubling their allowance. How do you tell children to increase their income?
I would say find something that you're good at and implement it and do something with it. You could create a business. For example, if you're good at cooking, you could do cooking classes. If you're a good musician, you could teach people how to play that instrument.
Wow. But your theme seems to be do something. Everybody has some ability, and you should do something with that ability that can generate money.
Yes, absolutely.
And then once they do that, once they get paid for whatever it is they do, what do you suggest young people do with the money?
I suggest that they should put some into saving. I usually have 10% that I use out of events that I do. I get 10% of that and I implement it to the things that I want, and I'll put the rest into saving and the rest into my business as well.
Oh, so you believe in spending 10% and then saving and investing the other 90?
Yes.
Of course, because your housing is paid for, your transportation's paid for, your clothing's paid for. So that's a great formula. Until you're on your own, spend 10 and save the other 90. That's an amazing formula. You'll get rich by the time you're 18.
And one thing that I would even love to do in the future is create my very own tiny house. I would love to do that this year, to where I will rent the tiny house out to people. I could put it on Airbnb to where people can be able to stay at it. So that's one of my biggest projects that I'd love to do this year.
Yeah, there is a development in Atlanta. That was one of my meetings. It's actually in Union City, right outside of Atlanta, where 4 acres are going to be used for the development, I think, of 200 tiny houses. And so I'd like to, I'll connect you to that project, because that might be a place you can get started.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. That was one of the things too, Doctor, is that he wanted to be able to show kids, and that was like the segue from that book, How to Teach Kids How to Make 10K under 10 years old, is that was going to be his next project that he's starting with the tiny home. And with the bus, if I can backtrack just a little bit, Kaden would text me like 2 or 3 days in a row, and he would say, "Hey, what's going on, bus driver?" And I was like, I asked my wife, I said, "Why is he calling me bus driver?" So she giggled and she said, "He'll let you know in a couple of days." So this was a Wednesday. Kaden came to me, he said, "Listen, Dad, I've been watching TV shows where they actually take buses, RVs, and different trailers and turn them into living homes, living facilities." So he said, "Listen, I want to take a bus and I want to convert it into a mobile school." I said, "Okay, tell me a little bit more about it." So long story short, that Friday we had Chinese food for dinner, and he still has it to this day. He had a fortune cookie that said something along the lines of, "You're going to be blessed with a $4 investment in the very near future." So 2 weeks to that date, he purchased that bus cash with the money from his own pocket. And then he did a $50,000 capital raise in 2 months to retrofit it to what you now see today. And that led him to, he's going to be on a TV show that's going to come out on 2 major networks here in a couple months from the rebuild process. So that's where that idea about the tiny homes is like, let me just take away one more excuse to why any kid can create wealth and start building their business acumen and financial acumen as it relates to what I can do as a kid today.
Right,
so
right.
Excited about the impact.
That whole idea that our thoughts drive our behavior is so important, because as you know, Kaden, the culture is so saturated with distractions from thinking about serious things, that often our thoughts can't keep up with our dreams. And so we have dreams, but if our thoughts aren't aligned with our dreams, then our dreams will never come true. You're making me even more jealous now, because as a grown man with 3 earned degrees and a large corporation and a large church, I could not convince anybody that a financial education bus made sense. So I need to come and be tutored by you. I'm too old now to do the bus. So since you're doing it and I wanted to do it, I have nothing better to do but to promote what you're doing, because it's exactly what I wanted to do, and it's exactly the right thing to do. So I just thank God for you, and my commitment is to help you do it as much as I can, because you have to go where people are, and the best way to get there is to have a vehicle that has all of the information and the resources. So Brittany, you weren't around then, but I'm going to show you some of my old documents.
Yeah.
If I can find them. I might have gotten so mad I threw them away. But some of my old documents, I had a whole artistic rendering of what the bus looked like. So thank you, Caden, for completing my vision. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
How do you pay for that though? How do you monetize? Because buses are expensive. You've got not just the completion of the bus, but you've got insurance and you've got other expenses. How do you pay for the bus?
Well, like I said, with the 90% that I get from events, I'll put that back into my business and saving it as well. And recently we had a problem with the bus to where we had to get it towed. So it's actually under works right now currently, but it should be back on the road by this week or next week, actually.
That's great. That's great.
And then do people book the bus? Oh, go ahead.
What'd you say?
I was going to say, do people book the bus, or do school districts ask you to like sit outside? How do you do it?
Yes, people will book the bus for me to come out. I'll do an event with them. I'll do a workshop, and then the rest of the time they spend on the bus.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And congratulations. Listen, congratulations to both of you. Brittany, I couldn't have been more excited about meeting somebody as I am. I'm going to get your autograph, Kaden, when I get to Atlanta, and hopefully we can help build your brand, build your business, and help your success.
Definitely. Thank you.
Awesome.
Well, thank you both for joining us today. And that's it for another episode of Ask the Expert.